I always tell everybody, man, if we actually showed you, like, just ran a hunt, you know, from beginning to end and showed you those 1,000 minutes instead of just the 22 minutes, you would be bored to tears.
That would be slow TV.
Like, just,
yeah,
it'd be slow TV. Just to watch that is just, it's not entertaining. It's not, you know, engaging. And it's a different story when you're out there.
Right, when you're doing it, yeah.
And
all right. What is up, everybody? Got Jim to my right, as per usual, and I'm just going to jump right in. We have Janis Putelis from the MeatEater crew in studio, a real-life human being, Jim, in the studio with us. It's fantastic. It feels good.
A 3D full-on person.
Walking, talking, this is going to be fantastic. Now,
hold on, I got a question. Is that's not the norm? I'm getting the feeling.
Oh, well, we just had, you know, I mean, lately there's been a lot of virtual stuff, you know, so you got somebody on a computer screen across the table. Now, if we're doing internal ones and we have real people here, you know, like Ryan Muckenhern joins us or Eric or whoever, but yeah, like an outside guest though, being in person is great.
And we have been doing more just remote ones, just because proximity, right? Sometimes you want to talk to somebody and they don't live. But it just feels good, man. It feels good. It's good to see you.
No, it's nice to be, you know, human to human contact, you know, especially these days.
For sure.
So I'm just coming off a blacktail hunt in Western Washington.
Welcome back.
Where I spent 5 days hunting deer, saw probably 40-ish does, and 0 bucks, Jim.
Okay.
And the reason why I bring this up is because it's reminiscent of the last time that Janis and I probably hung out, which was a few years ago, where we're hunting Sitka blacktail deer on Prince of Wales Island, where we had another tough hunt. It was actually this same week, so maybe I need to quit hunting this last week of October. And I don't think we saw a deer until day 4, and then finally things kind of picked up. And on that hunt, was able to scratch up a buck at literally the very last minute. We were going to go up.
Like, plane is flying in, and we're like, where is Mark? And you come rolling in on a canoe, and you're like, I got one!
It's funny. So even when you're with the MeatEater crew, everyone's asking, where the hell is Mark?
I get lost a lot. This is true. We talk about it. I'm open about it.
It's one of my favorite episodes of MeatEater.
I always say
because you're in it.
Well, I appreciate
it's just
that.
fun seeing somebody you know on TV.
If you want,
I mean, I guess we know you guys, but also, you know, it's like I sit right next to Mark at work. It's great.
I'll plug it if you want to check it out. Season 8, I think it's probably one of the best episodes ever. Now, I do have a personal connection.
That's probably still on Netflix then, right now, right?
I think
it's
is
season 8.
Yeah, people can check it out there. But obviously, I have a personal connection to it. I was there, so it's like makes it maybe even cooler. But then also, I personally think Southeast Alaska is probably one of the greatest places on Earth.
Oh, it's rad. We were just there, not just in July. We were there, and what you and I both did not do, but we watched Steve do. I got to do this year, which was do some free diving.
No way.
Which I call it free diving. I'm like a good snorkeler. You know, that's really the category I fall into these days. But like that underwater world there is as cool as walking through the forest there.
No way.
Oh, it's totally worth it. I would do it and just look and not even like pick up sea cucumbers or pick up scallops, which is what we were doing. Steve's actually gotten good enough. Scallops is like, the way he talks about it, it's kind of like morels. Like, you got to look and look and look, and finally you kind of like realize like what you're looking for, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, there they are, there they are, there they are.
Oh, okay.
Are they actually attached to the rocks down there, or what's going on there?
Yeah, totally. And it's, you know, it's a single-sided shell, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's basically the Shell gas station is like the perfect scallop shape, and then that thing's attached to usually like the side or underside of a rock, and it's not like it's just a big white shell. It's very camouflaged and got, you know, algae and stuff going all over it. But there's a pinkish orangish frill that kind of sticks out of the edges, and that's sort of that rainbow shaped colored frill is like what like your eye is supposed to be looking for. And once, because if you go by it and touch it or give it too much, you know, water current pushing against it, it'll suck that frill in and disappear.
Oh, interesting.
And it's very hard to relocate the
Is that what they're using to filter then and eat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, is it also like morels in that there's some people out there who say that they can smell them?
I don't recommend trying to smell underwater.
No, let me just take this mask off real quick and give it a good sniff. Yeah.
But yeah, man, like when you go back, definitely bring the 5 mil suit and the snorkel and mask because it was way cool.
So, and would you say like, because like I've snorkeled before, right? But like very leisurely, like I'm talking like trunks and a snorkel. You think like that kind of skill level? Because I do like I've thought about wanting to do it, but I'm like, man, are there like any like wild currents or you know?
There are wild currents, and so we definitely like we went for low tide and slack tide.
Okay, low and slack.
And there was like an hour where it was really easy. And then when the current started coming back in, it got a little faster. And like when we were hanging out behind, or we just hang on an eddy behind a rock, and it's fine. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, let's go to that next rock. And you start like going towards the rock, and then you realize that you're just getting drifted. And so you have to like compensate, and you realize like, oh, I'm using a lot of energy right now too, you know?
Yeah.
And so you definitely got to be on top of your game and have somebody in a boat, you know, watching what everybody's doing and making sure everybody's safe. But yeah, we've been talking because Steve's goal now is to, I think, actually spear gun a halibut. And
yeesh, man.
Yeah, it's a deep dive. Like I don't think you're going to get one in probably, I mean, I'm sure that halibut are found in 20 feet of water, but I think you're going to have to hit probably 30, 40, 50 to actually get it done.
I mean, I was thinking, like kind of like 60 even, like, I don't know. I'm not a big equalizing your ears for that's stuff.
No, you got to get that down. The Frenzel technique. Look it up on YouTube. There's a really weird dude that does this, but it's a great video, and he teaches you how to do it. And once you figure it out, it's not that hard.
Okay,
that's not just the thing where you like blow out kind of in your ears and then like
it's like
before you head down, right?
Well, it doesn't. Even if you have to do it at the top, and then you just keep going every 6 feet, you basically have to do it over and over and over again.
I know nothing about aquatic stuff.
Estimating that, or do you have like a dive watch and
your ears immediately, your head feels it.
Oh, so you're just doing it
like
by
for
like
me. For me, in a beginner stage, I pretty much just like pop my ears. Time to pop them again. Time to pop them. You know, like I just pop the whole way down because I'm just not that good. You know, some guys I think get to the point where it's almost automatic. You know, but.
Can your body get used to doing it? Like, I feel like sometimes your ears don't want to pop even when you want them to pop. Or like, can you like even like not exercise, but kind of exercise, like get your body used to that process? I wonder. I don't know.
Probably. I mean, it's like a muscular movement. I mean, you're literally like pushing the back of your tongue, kind of like it's like the beginning of a swallow without the finishing part of it. So you kind of, when you do in the beginning of a swallow, you feel your tongue go up. Mm-hmm. That is enough to just push the pressure through that whole cavity and out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How deep are the cukes and the scallops?
Oh, that's where I come in. Yeah, that's like that's like sometimes you can pick it up like without even breaking this, like going below the surface.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
especially
about.
if it's an extreme low tide. But no, you feel like a pro because you're in like 10, 12 feet. So it's just enough to like, you're like, I'm diving down. And then you get down there and there's just like cucumbers everywhere. So you're just like, I mean, you can load one of those mesh sacks and, you know,
it's so cool.
3 or 4 dives.
I mean, for any listeners that don't know what a sea cucumber is, I feel like I'm plugging it. Like I never even talk about this, but now I'm plugging this show. But check out that season 8 episode of MeatEater where Steve, dives down, gets those sea cucumbers. They're absolutely wild looking. They look like nothing you'd ever want to consume in your. I mean, they look like they'd be poisonous.
Yeah, they scream, "I'm poisonous," visually speaking.
Totally.
And to this day, like I haven't stopped thinking about how absolutely delicious they are.
Yeah,
he shows how to clean them. Like you can see cleaning them.
It's a weird deal because there's like a lot of waste. Because you probably grab like a thing that's a half a pound and you end up getting like an ounce maybe of meat out of it. Because you're basically, strips. Yeah, the strips are like the internal muscles that run lengthwise inside of it. And you scrape those off. But at that point, it's like eating clam strips. They're awesome.
A lot of water weight there though. They're like full of water.
Yeah, yeah.
It was funny because like in the show, you obviously get an idea of when you see them. Like you said, they scream sort of like, I'm poisonous if you just looked at them. But when you guys like cutting them up and opening them up and peeling those little strips off and everything, like the whole time I was like, I'm all about this. I'd try that. It looks delicious. But you know, my wife's watching and she's like, everything about everything they're doing looks repulsive.
Phenomenal. So much so that I do have a wetsuit now. Now, the wetsuit that I have, I think it'll work. It's more of like a surfing wetsuit. It's a 5 mil surfing wetsuit.
Yeah,
because I'm a big surfer, Jim.
Should be fine.
Not true.
Yeah.
Do a lot of surfing. Actually, I haven't done it. Maybe this year is the year. I want to surf Lake Michigan in the winter, which sounds like sounds cold.
Have you surfed?
I have attempted probably like 8 times, but it's always been like horrible conditions.
All right. So you're going to go in the winter in a wetsuit on a lake to try and learn to surf and also surf like when it's icy cold.
It's probably not a good idea.
Okay, well,
keep me on the right track. Anyway, but it's not like I feel like the dive wetsuits, the ones that I've looked at more are like they're kind of like more like 2-piece or like kind of like more not articulated, but there's like joints to it, and this is like a one kind of like more of like a 1-piecer. But it is 5 mil. It's got a hood, it's got booties, and I've got like mitts.
Yeah, you should be fine.
You guys are using a weight belt though, right?
Yes.
I don't have a weight
belt.
Gotta
get that. That's the trippiest thing, man. And me being like, I don't consider myself a big guy, but when you tell somebody your weight and they're like, oh, you're a big guy, you're going to need a bunch of weight. And it's because the bigger you are, the bigger your wetsuit is, which is buoyant. And so you need more weight to actually, get you down and equalize. So I think I'm running like, I could be totally off, but I think it's like 20 pounds. Like it's like a sizable chunk of a bunch of lead running around your waist. And when you like go to like jump in this icy cold water, it just doesn't seem like right in your head to have an extra 20 pounds wrapped
I'm picturing
around
a lot of mob movies where they tie weights to people to,
Yeah. Like when you throw an anchor in the water, it goes to the bottom and it stays there.
And plus, you don't look like a very buoyant guy to begin with anyway. I mean, same kind of builds around the table here. Usually when guys like us jump in the water, it's just...
So what's that since like when you, but you don't sink like a rock?
No,
then?
you don't. You barely even have to, kick your fins to keep your head above the water. Still then.
Okay.
Because you float more the higher you are. So as you get down, that density gets less. It actually helps keep equalize down there.
But then a couple kicks and you can just get right back up. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, mine it's a Patagonia wetsuit is the one that I have. It's pretty cool.
That sounds about right, Mark.
I should probably.
You like nice stuff.
I do.
I'm completely out of my element talking about all this underwater stuff.
Let's go.
I think the furthest underwater I've been is at probably the Middleton pool here. When I went to the diving pool and thought it'd be really cool if I touched the bottom, my ears hurt.
Well, you need to use
there you go.
I need to use the technique.
Frenzel.
Then all the kids on the diving board behind me are going to get mad because I'm taking too much time.
I'm frenzeling. Okay. Should we get started?
Yes, I would say so.
So what we have here when we get to the real podcast, even though I enjoyed that immensely, and I'm going to pick your brain on that even more. We've got a what we're calling a rapid fire Q&A.
Yes.
With Janis here. We're going to get in the mind of a Janis.
Mm-hmm. Is that the sound of my brain?
No, hopefully that's a reference to a
hopefully
YouTube
people
video
get
that
it.
Mark and I really enjoy, where a certain person is playing Madden and is touting the great abilities of Greg Jennings. And they watch the replay and get into the mind of a Greg Jennings, and then his sound effect of going into his mind is so.
Very accurate.
Someone out there has to have seen the video. It's got a lot of views on it, I think.
Whenever you're entering anybody's mind, it makes that sound.
Right.
Pretty confident in that. So we've got some questions here. We got them lined out, got them all written down, Jim. You know how I like to write things down, and of course I had to grab my pen at the last minute because we have 2 new questions we're going to ask because we thought of a couple things. But
we should too. Many people who listen to this podcast surely probably watch MeatEater and have seen Janis before. But Janis, if you gave yourself like a quick intro as well for anybody who's not yet familiar.
I just assume.
Well, and probably rightfully so, but just in case.
Real quick intro. I got involved in this business in 2012, and that's when I got involved with Steve and MeatEater. And small world story where his wife and I actually went to high school together. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I didn't know
little tidbit.
I didn't know that.
And through that connection, we emailed a little bit. And just happened I was in Alaska at the time, and he had a sheep tag, the one that Paul Neese came out and helped us on.
Okay, right, yep.
And so I ended up going on that trip, and here we are, 8 or 9 years later, I guess.
I think
roughly.
I think it's more than that, even Janis.
Well, no, because that was 2012.
Well,
so sorry, it can't be Mark.
You're the math magician, not me.
It just can't be more than that, I don't think.
Physically.
No, Mark, that's how time works. I'm not sure if you're familiar with time.
Yeah.
And years and.
But yeah, so I've done everything as far as concerning, I guess, making the show MeatEater from just a grunt kind of mule. We have that position called wilderness production assistant, which basically means you're going to come out on a backpacking style hunt and kind of do a little bit of everything. Okay. Definitely work the hardest out of anybody on the crew. And then I've kind of worked myself up to produce the show, direct the show. And just recently, we backfilled or hired someone else for that position. And I have not been going out on all MeatEater shoots. And that's opened up time for me to do some of my own content, which is why I'm in Wisconsin right now, is to shoot a MeatEater Hunts episode with my dad.
Awesome.
Right on. Yeah, that's cool. Man, so prior to being with MeatEater, though, I mean, you were, and I think you mentioned it, you were a guide, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How does that happen where you're going from being a guide to then, I mean, producing and directing a show, especially one that you guys have been on Netflix, you guys have like a pretty huge viewership and all that. I mean, really high production value show. Like, were you doing show-related, video-related stuff prior to when you were a guide at all, or in college or anything? Or?
You know, I had when I guided, I guided trout fly fishing trips in Colorado, and then like mostly elk hunts in Colorado, a little bit in Arizona, and through the Arizona gig, I worked with Jay Scott from Jay Scott Outdoors. You guys probably know of
man,
Jay.
I knew you guys did stuff with those guys, but I didn't know that's who you were guiding with, though.
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Yeah. No, and I actually, how I met Jay was he was a fishing client of mine.
Wild.
Yeah, we went down the Eagle River one day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I saw that elk sticker in the back of your truck," and I was just like, "Oh yeah, man, I love elk," and blah, 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 blah. And I just went off, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've killed a couple nice ones, you know." And I got home and went on to his blog. I'm like, "Oh, when he says couple nice ones, like over 400-inch or couple nice ones," you know, humble dude. But so he had a blog at that time, and so I sort of helped him. Not helped him, but I just contributed. So I would like write up little stories and kind of do my own little reports. This was before like everybody just did that on their Instagram, you know? And so I would do that a little bit. And obviously I took a lot of pictures for clients, you know? So I walked around with the camera a lot, but that was probably really my only real, you know, sort of media background. And so I was just lucky that, you know, I had a appetite to learn about that stuff, and that 0.0, who produced the show at that time, was very forthcoming to, you know, give me a lot of people that would, you know, help me and teach me and, you know, kind of show me the ropes. And
that's cool.
Here we are.
That's really cool.
That's super cool. Yeah, here you are now. You got the show. You guys have a wildly successful podcast yourselves, the MeatEater podcast, MeatEater.com, where you have lots of great written content. And I would say, I mean, like we talked about earlier, a lot of people familiar. If you are a hunter but aren't familiar with MeatEater and everything they have going on content-wise, definitely go check it out. And if you're hunt curious or have been thinking about getting into hunting, man, just tons of great stuff. Tons of great stuff there. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's got a little bit of everything. And so much of it that I can't possibly myself consume it all. But I love the stuff that Spencer Newharth writes. That he comes up with just like wild, interesting stuff that you wouldn't really, nobody ever thinks about it, but you're like, oh, that's great. Like, I totally wanted to know why, what's the one he recently did? He's been doing like an ongoing story on McFarthest. You guys been keeping up with that? Like the farthest you can be from a McDonald's in the whole country?
I did not see that one.
Go in and check that out. But he's got a thing called like Barroom Banter, which is just like interesting facts and weird things related to, you know, hunting and wildlife that he does. Good whitetail content from Mark Kenyon and, you know, Spencer that's, you know, written on there, which is great. Yeah, so ton of stuff. What do we have coming up? I'm trying to think what our new shows are. We had season 2 of Dose Boat. Do you guys watch that?
Yep.
Or Das Boat.
I've seen some of that.
Dose Boat. Yeah.
sense.
I believe when this airs, we'll have the Fur Hat Ice Fishing Tour, which I did. And I spent some time here in Wisconsin for last winter.
Excellent.
I was out on Lake Winnebago. You guys say Bago or Bago?
Bago.
I say Winnebago.
Bago.
Yeah. You guys give it the Bago?
Sturgeon spearing. You know what? I don't, but the editor that first recorded the VO put in Bago. And I was like, no.
I think, I mean, most people around here, I mean, you talk, they get a grocery bag, they eat bagels, like Winnebago.
I've only heard it that, I'm a transplant, but I've only heard it that way. And actually, even before I moved here, I fished Lake Winnebago. Ice fished it. It was actually, in my opinion, I don't know, the guy I was with was like pretty confident, but we drove a 4-wheeler out on the ice, and I thought, to me, the ice seemed too soft when we were bogging the 4-wheeler down, like nearly getting stuck in the slush on the ice. Like that, I was like,
yeah, that's when you get that water on top of the ice, and they're like, it's fine. You're like,
yeah,
how is this fine?
I'm like, we're nearly buried in slush. Like, I mean, to the point where a 4-wheeler, like, the back end sinking down, and I don't know.
We were cutting 6-foot holes in the ice for the spearing hole.
6 foot.
Yeah, 6 by 4.
My goodness,
that takes a hell of a chainsaw.
I mean, you fall in that hole, you're not reaching up and pulling yourself out. I mean,
Boy, that's crazy. I would think you'd want to have like some ropes there handy to like toss.
Yeah,
somebody,
well, you
perhaps.
you do have a rope that's attached to the shack that's attached to the spear. So you would have that. You can always throw a spear at your buddy.
Here, catch this.
Look out. Okay, now grab on.
I'm saving you.
Be on the lookout for that. We try to like really get in deep on the whole ice fishing culture and the stuff that you don't just normally see out there in ice fishing media. There's a little bit more to it, and like some crazy personalities that we came across. But yeah, we were sturgeon fishing or sturgeon spearing. We did,
which is like a crazy unique thing.
Crazy. Whitefish spearing. We went and caught whitefish. We went and caught walleye. But yeah, it's. I think it's going to be interesting. I think people will dig it.
It sounds
something
awesome.
different.
People who love ice fishing love ice fishing. Like I knew some guys from like North Dakota, and they're like, if the water was hard year round, that would be their fantasy world. Like they love it.
It's the truth.
And that I'll be curious to see that sturgeon spearing. I've watched videos. The hunting public guys do some stuff, and have done that before. And what a unique, interesting tradition, opportunity. Like you just don't. There's not even there's not a hook and line season on the lake. I don't think, but there's a spearing season. I don't know. Check it out on MeatEater
for sure.
All right.
So there's a little background on MeatEater and Janis. Mark, you actually, I think most of these questions are actually from you. And look, you even printed me out some papers.
Of course.
This time.
You never print anything.
That's because I have, technology and
you always get your phone out. But then
he's saving the world, Doesn't every email now comes and says, think twice before you print and save a tree or whatever.
They do.
Oh, is that? Mark goes straight to Control P.
I'm a
Control P. Enter.
I can't read it on this screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Trad printer.
Yeah, trad emails.
Trad, yeah.
All right, Marco. Since you toss one out in our rapid fire.
Okay.
Here.
So we've got these broke down into categories. So I've got the first category, and I guess hopefully other people agree. Got the fun stuff.
Okay.
Some easy stuff. So, Janis, question 1.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get started hunting? I feel like people oftentimes have sometimes really basic stories, really interesting stories, but how did the Janis get started?
I feel like I have 2 beginnings. I have like the traditional one that's through my dad.
Okay.
Sure.
I was, 6 when he kind of started getting seriously into hunting. Remember him leaving for hunting camp, going to the same hunting camp that I'm going to tonight. And then I think when I was probably 10-ish, 10, 11, I started going along. So I definitely went for a couple of years before I could hunt. And I want to say back then it was I can't remember because Michigan and Wisconsin were different. Is it 12 here?
12 here.
And 14 in Michigan, I think. So I think I actually hunted in Wisconsin 2 years before I hunted in Michigan.
Okay, gotcha. I know in Washington I could carry a rifle at 12, but I couldn't hunt by myself until I was 14.
Oh, so yeah, and
Like, so I could
possible
be with
there's something like that around here too. So
something like that.
Yeah, it's probably been upgraded and there's been an evolution, since,
I don't think
since
there's
20 years ago.
There is, and I think at least in Wisconsin right now, I don't think there is a min age as long as you have a mentor.
No, that's great.
So
right on.
And man, isn't that a difference? I mean, I have plenty of friends now that are, peers of mine that have kids that are roughly the same age, and their like kids are shooting stuff at,
my gosh,
9, 8, some even younger. And I'm like, I look at my 9-year-old, and I'm just like, man, like she is not there, to be like pulling the trigger on something, and she's not as into the shooting thing as some of these other kids, and we're having fun shooting. I'm not pushing it. I think like at 9, I don't think I was there, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's just funny. It's just funny to see like the wide gap between kids' ages that I feel like I'm mature enough to be killing animals.
I remember I hunted deer for years without getting an opportunity, and like still to this day, like deer hunting is basically all I think about. Hunting in general, fishing, whatever, right? But I remember when I actually got my first like real opportunity to shoot a buck. It was a spike buck, and I was 17, so I'd been, basically carrying a rifle since I was 12. And even at that moment, you kind of talk about maturity. I mean, that was an extremely like real moment for me where I'm like, oh my God, there's a buck right there. I throw the gun up, and I'm like, there was even like I was like, do I want to do this? And I was like, no, I do. Like, it wasn't like, I don't know, like there was a lot of thoughts and feelings going on in that, probably split second, right? And I'm like, nope, I do. Bang, and luckily made a good shot and got the buck. But
yeah, you're about to
like,
shoot
and I was 17, and that been like way into it forever.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't ever have to face that because where we grew up, we only sat and sort of stand hunted for probably the first 2 or 3 hours in southern Michigan. And then there was 24 hours of deer drives, for the following day, and then the whole second day, And so I think my, like, I don't know, I'd venture to say first dozen animals all came on deer drives.
Just, yeah, like
that's how I knew how to kill deer, was like, I'll walk and push for you, and then eventually you're going to push for me, and that's how I'm going to get my deer.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my first one, so it happened kind of fast. But what I was going to say is that I went through that, and then I hunted through high school, kind of got into bow hunting, never killed a deer with a bow in high school, and then right after high school, I pretty much moved out west, and I went out there to snowboard.
Cool.
Not to hunt, and was definitely like my mind was in not in a hunting place at that time. Kind of got into fishing on my own out there, but my dad was like, let's do an elk hunt. I think where you live is pretty good elk hunting. I'm like, I don't know. I'm here like having a good time, like partying and snowboarding and working and, living life. And through that, I kind of I got a hold of this outfitter that gave us a DIY camp, and then we went there, and that's the same outfitter that ended up hiring me a year later. But once I got in there, that's sort of what sparked my, like, I think, like, sort of adult hunting career, and when I was like, because like you were saying, at 17, you seemed like it was a big thing. Even at 20, when I started working up there, it was all very new, and I felt like immature, and I didn't know that much, but that I was like, I made a decision where I was like, man, I really like this. I'm going to do a lot more of it. And there's people here that I can learn from, and just like, went full cannonball into the elk pool,
That's
nice.
Awesome. That's awesome. I also love how work came third after snowboarding and partying.
Sounds about right.
I like the hierarchy of the listing there.
It sounds about right.
Oh yeah. And I owe all of that to my buddy Saul from high school, where he had gone out west. I think he went to Mount Baker or something like that, Washington, or maybe Hood, right after high school. And I had stayed in Michigan, in Kalamazoo, for a year, and was definitely kind of twiddling my thumbs and getting into trouble and not really moving forward and didn't really have a path. And he's like, dude, you should come out west. And so none of my life would be totally different had he not said, "Come out west with me."
Right on.
Stuff like that, like those little moments / big decisions that really change the entire direction of your life. Like it's weird to think about kind of those pivotal. Or I find it always not weird, but always interesting to think about kind of like those pivotal things. Yeah. Like for me, one of those was working for Cabela's and moving from Washington to Sydney, Nebraska. You know what I mean? Like that definitely changed the course of my life dramatically.
For sure.
All right.
All right. Marco, you got this next one?
Sure. Question 2. I won't number all these, by the way.
We're still in fun stuff.
We're still in the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you spent.
This is more of a slow fire.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah, slow fire.
That's all right.
We're this
slow
is
burn.
Muzzleloading podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
You spent a lot of time as a professional guide. What's the craziest story you've got?
Could be dangerous. Could be a weird, interesting person that you got. Funny.
Yeah, I definitely had some of those. The weird, interesting. There was a lawyer that I guided once that would come up with the craziest ideas. For example, we're sitting on this knob and we're looking over like half forest, half private. In the private, we couldn't hunt when there's another hunter on the private. And the dude's sitting on a 5-gallon bucket in kind of in a blind. We're elk hunting. And I think we could glass him and see that he maybe had like a sleeping bag or he had brought in something to help him stay warm. Must have been really cold. And the client's telling me, he's like, he must have slept there last night. And I'm like, no, don't think so. I'm like, you know how the place where we're staying is like less than a mile away. I'm like, he's staying in the cabin that's less than a mile away from where he's at right now. No real reason to sleep out there. He's like, nope, for sure. He's got 5 gallons of water that he's sitting on in that bucket. And then you can see his sleeping bag right there next to him, you know? He definitely stayed out there last night. And I'm like, huh. Then we see like some Canada geese fly over. And he's like, did you know that those hummingbirds just attach themselves into the down of those Canada geese? And that's how they migrate, you know, from way up north to way down south. And I'm just like, buddy, I did not know all this, you know? And he just like, it was nonstop all week. And then what happened, I felt a little bit bad, but not bad, because like now I don't feel bad at all about it. But the dude kept leaving his rifle loaded. I kept telling him, you got to unload it, because he was a little bit older, and we would drive to places and walk not far, and then, you know, sip. And I was like, dude, you got to unload your rifle. Like when we're not hunting, unload your rifle. Like that's how I roll, you know, just can't have one in the tube, right? So every time he put his rifle back in the truck, I would check. He'd still have one in the tube, you know?
Yeah.
So I would unload it. Well, one morning, I forget to tell him to load it. So we're sitting in the blind, and here a bull, like little 4-pointer, runs into the meadow, looks over at us, and then like starts running and keeps going out in the meadow. I mean, it was, you know, over before I could even say, hey, there's an elk. Well, enough time for him to pull up and dry fire on this bull. I'm like, oh, didn't load it? He's like, well, I left it loaded yesterday. I'm like, well, yeah, I took that one out of the chamber, buddy. So sorry. He actually ended up getting a shot later and missed one. But I remember that guy as kind of like one of my weirder, wackier experiences as a hunting guide. We're just like I really don't know what's going on in this guy's head.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're up on the mountain, you're by yourself, and you're like, I am sitting next to an insane person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you know how I feel.
That's one of the great things about guiding, though, is that you really get to learn how, because you're being paid to be buddies and to work with whoever shows up in camp, you know, and you don't really, as the guide, get to pick and choose what you're like, well, I'd rather hunt with the liberal fella and not the conservative. Like, you don't. It's like you hunt with everybody, and no matter who they are, what they believe in, and you're going to listen to everything they talk about and kind of laugh at their jokes, you know? Sure.
Well, I mean, and everybody's got a perspective, too.
Everyone I've ever known who is or was a guide is usually about the most laid back and just kind of easy to get along with person ever. And I just have to imagine that is either comes naturally or they had to learn it. because otherwise I'm sure you'd drive yourself insane because there'd be some days where you're like, I don't feel like being around you. But
you would have to be. I mean, you'd have to be like,
and it's not even just like you're not like their limo driver where you're just kind of like, yep, hello, and then you're just going, whatever. You're like, nope, you're hunting with them. You are alone.
You were spending a week together.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 5 days we would do, and a lot of time. I mean, obviously later in the guides, I think hunting careers, you realize that you're like, I don't really have to sit next to this guy for the whole day. Maybe I will during like prime time, and then I'm going to go take a walk and go scout. Scout in air quotes. Some guys, some guides scout. Some guides might run off and take a nap. It always happens as soon as you walk away. You're like, oh, look, there's a bull. There's not enough time to run and get your client and come back. So. I'm sorry I don't have anything more exciting, but we kept it pretty safe and calm up there.
That's probably good. Probably a good thing. Probably a good thing.
Elk.
Yeah, I mean, you probably don't need 20 stories about like how you almost died. That's what you're trying to avoid most of the time.
Here's one,
Jim. Yeah, go.
So I'm always curious about behind the scenes stuff when I watch shows. So MeatEater, I'm sure there's like in many of my favorite shows, like car related, of course. Big fan of like Grand Tour and Top Gear and stuff. I've heard that on a lot of these shows where people are on adventures and they're recording, that there can be hundreds and hundreds of hours of film that all has to then wind up hitting the cutting room floor to get you that 1 hour, however long it is. Cut, but like what are some of the stuff that happens and like aspects of MeatEater and like what it looks like behind the scenes when you're filming and all that are behind the scenes that people don't see that they might not know? Like Steve seems like he's a real well-spoken guy. Probably doesn't have to take many takes when you guys film him speaking. But is there ever stuff that you're like, oh yeah, that maybe you don't have to like shoot stuff over and over because you're in nature. You can't like make nature rewind and do it all over again. But is there ever stuff that gets screwed up and you're like, we're going to have to try and work around that?
Yeah, so I think sometimes, like, for the most, that dude's very articulate and has a lot of stuff in his head, and he's, rehearsed it in his head and rehearsed just saying it, and so it comes out pretty dang smooth. If more than anything, there's like a little bit of prompting sometimes that goes on.
Sure.
Or like we'll write up what's called like a treatment and like a dossier for him going into episodes sometimes, which just has like information about the area and about the episode and whether it's history or biological information, stuff about the animals that live there, whatever it might be. Anything we can find on the internet that's interesting about Prince of Wales Island. And then give it to him and he can read it, and then later, hopefully, he'll regurgitate it on camera, or if there's something like a certain talking point that we're like, man, we really got to make sure we hit that, we'll just maybe remind him a couple times during it.
Now, you guys do also have like a lot, Steve and really a lot of the guys there at MeatEater have a lot of interesting information up in your noggins. So do you ever just find yourself where you're like, we've got hours and hours and hours and hours of us going on about really interesting stuff, but we gotta cut this down somehow. Like
for when we're making the show.
Yeah.
It's there's a thing called a shooting ratio, which is like how many minutes you filmed to how many minutes you made, and I think at the very, very extreme for us, it could possibly get up to like 100 to 1.
Whew. Wow.
And that's like a very long shoot that for whatever reason it didn't turn into a double or whatever, and it was a long week and it was slow, but you're still having to film it all because you never know when it's going to happen. Like you said, nature's just going to happen, and we don't like to do too many recreates if we don't have to.
Of course,
the most common recreate is there he is when someone spots him, right? Because it's just like the guys have been holding their cameras and running on you for hours and hours and hours, and everybody puts them down. Well, you keep hunting, you keep looking.
Right.
And you spot a bear or an elk. So the most common recreate is going to be like, okay, put the cameras back up. Before anybody says anything else, we're going to say, there he is, or, oh, I got him, or whatever. And then from that point on, everything becomes natural. As long as, hopefully, I was there as the director to say, okay, stop what you're doing. Don't say anything else. Don't get excited. Don't get your spotting scope out yet. Just let us get set up. Give me 1 minute to get my camera guys set up and rolling. And then we'll pick it up with, I found him. And so that's like, there's a second of recreation. And then from everything there on out, it's, as it would happen. Except
everything in your being wants to be like, get excited, get everything going. Like,
totally.
Let's do
and
it.
you just gotta, and you can still, you're gonna get excited, but you just gotta hold on just long enough for those guys to get those cameras, up and rolling. Because I want it to be authentic and in the moment. I don't want to recreate, any more than we have to, But it just stinks. Like, it's something you'll never notice in the edit, but it makes it so much better if, like, we do recreate that moment and we don't just jump into you guys already looking through your spotting scopes and being like, oh my God, he's got giant G5s. And you're like, well, hold on. How did we get to he's got giant G5s,
Right.
So, yeah.
Makes total
I would
sense.
imagine it is humanly impossible for any person to actually wait to say that. Like, you could never spot one and then be like, okay, you're going to need to turn the camera on for a second. Like, you're going to say, I got one, or there he is. And then Janis is going to have to, calm you down from.
Yeah. But I think it's important to note that we don't have a giant crew. One, because it's hunting and you just can't really do hunting well when you have a bunch of people. So
you can't have boom Mike Nate walking around out in the wilderness with his boom.
When Jim and I were going to go bow hunt coos deer last year, and I love Nate, by the way. So Nate is great
on our video team.
He hasn't hunted a whole lot. Great at video. But we're going through his gear assortment. He's like, oh yeah, and I got this boom mic, and I'm like, Nate, you can't bring that. He's like, why? I'm like, you just can't.
We need to get good sound. Yeah, we'll figure out a way.
Yeah, it's a balance because he's right. You do have to get good sound if you want quality production.
One of the major senses used when hunting.
It is.
Marco?
Well, Jim, you're a big impression guy. You like to do impressions. In fact, I was very flattered for Halloween. We're just, I guess, post-Halloween here. Jim, actually, I'm pretty predictable when it comes to like what I wear on a daily basis. Pretty much the same thing. I switched it up today because now I'm self-conscious.
I know,
Jim,
you're not wearing a vest and a Vortex t-shirt underneath today.
Exactly.
But you do have your jeans and socks on.
So, yeah, half the costume is on. So Jim came to work dressed as me for Halloween and was in character all day. I was deer hunting, so I didn't get to see it. But apparently you were doing a good job.
Did it get a lot of laughs, Jim?
Well, it actually got a lot of confused looks. People thought I was Mark. They're like, oh, you're back. And then it was like...
Very convincing.
Yeah.
Very convincing. So speaking of impressions...
Yeah, so I was able to do that because I have spent upwards of 12 years with Mark. It's been a long time of practicing for that very moment so that I could spend a whole day as Mark.
It sounds like the mannerisms were on point.
I tried.
Everything.
I tried.
So
yeah.
Speaking of that, and people that you work with, Janis, give us your best vanilla impression.
I'm not much of an impressionist, but I have been accused of picking up his mannerisms when I myself have to get in front of the camera, and that's probably just like you guys, from working with Steve now for 8 years. But the one I get a kick out of is that it's like it shows that Steve was not a guide, in which he kind of struggles with that because I think feels like he maybe missed out a little bit on like a little bit more hunting, but just he had a different track, But when he is with new hunters or people that he's like sort of guiding, like for instance we were with Pete Alonso last fall. Pete comes up on a big buck, and this is the same that it was for when Helen Cho had a whitetail buck in front of her like 4 or 5 years ago when we were hunting at Doug Dern's, and Steve's guiding her, mentoring her. They're like, there's the buck, and then Helen's like, or Pete's like, okay, can't see him. Pete's like, well, he's right. Steve's like, he's right there, get on him. And both people like finally like, okay, I see him, and we get on him, and then like not but 2 seconds later, the next thing out of Steve is like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I'm always like, "Dude, you're supposed to just be like, okay, take your time, make sure take your time, take a deep breath, make sure you got the right shot." But instead, it's just like, "What are you doing? How come you haven't shot that animal yet?" So that's you'll actually see that, and we got another season coming out in I think January, February on Netflix, and it'll have Pete Alonso's mule deer hunt.
Oh, cool.
And you'll get to see how good my impression was.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Oh,
I can't wait.
excellent.
I can't wait.
I mean, like, I do get, like, it's... When you've
Mark,
hunted,
you
like...
fully understand that because that is exactly what happened a couple weeks back.
Did that to you
Jim,
just the other day.
What are you doing? Shoot.
Jim, you have to shoot. You have to shoot now.
Jim.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have that audio, because I wasn't being very, I guess, patient, but, like, if you've hunted, you know how fleeting that moment is, and those you don't want to, I guess, like, freak somebody out or make them nervous, and then they make a poor shot, or...
Could have fooled me.
I said you don't want to. I didn't say I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there was a motion
you just know how fleeting those
my
moments
body that I was making to get to the gun, and Mark didn't appreciate how slowly the motion was happening. But the thing that is going through my head was that I'm making this motion as slowly as I'm making it, and the animals are still doing and moving in the direction I want them to. So I was like, it was sort of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I was like, I'll get to the gun. But the whole time, Mark going, what are you doing? Shoot the antelope right now. Shoot it.
They were onto us.
Yeah.
You tell Mark, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
That's right. Guess who shot the biggest antelope? Anyway.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Okay.
So Mark, let's get back to there's a fair amount more on
we
here,
got a
so
lot going on
let's
here.
Let's wrap them up a little bit.
Okay.
Mark.
Tactics and gear. Everybody loves tactics and gear.
That's true.
So this is more on the tactic side. You and the crew, we were just talking about this earlier. You've traveled south of the border to chase coos deer. What parallels can you draw from hunting coos deer during the rut to, like, rutting Midwest whitetails? Conventional whitetails, we'll call them.
Love my coos deer. And I try to draw as many parallels, like, on purpose. Like, I'm constantly looking for them because I'm like, they're just little Mexican whitetails. Like, how different can they be?
Yeah.
They live in a different environment. So I think when you watch them, because you always watch them through binoculars or a spotting scope, and you see them have a lot of those same, like, just like a Midwest whitetail would sometimes, like, they just get to a spot sometimes, and then they just, like, freeze like a statue and basically absorb their environment for sometimes minutes on end, right, without moving, right? And you'll see both of those animals do that. Rutting behavior, very similar, but again, here in the Midwest, you're hunting in like you're hunting in like 100-yard bubble. You can see like 50 yards each direction. There, you're like looking out to 2,000 yards every direction, right? So you can sometimes feel like you're seeing more deer, even though they're harder to see, but you can see them on a big open hillside, and you can like watch what they're doing. But I think that the way that they tend does is, very similar. And if you find the does and they're rutting, you just need to keep looking because the buck is going to be there. A couple years ago, I think we were there. Mark Kenyon had just shot his coos deer buck, and we're kind of all standing around, and then all of a sudden, right in this gully below us, all we just hear is burr, 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 and it just fades off. And without us ever seeing it, because it was just the roll was too steep, and we're in production mode, so we didn't really quite have time to anybody get a gun and try to make it happen. But this buck was just cruising and grunting and just went right on through and didn't care that there was like 6 dudes, less than 100 yards on the ridge above him, just yakking away.
That's crazy.
He's just like, I'm rutting, I'm looking for does, and I'm grunting and moving. So it's like hard as they are to like find and see and all that, because they're so little and they blend in so well. They still are rutting. They're still acting like whitetails, and you just got to keep that, I think, in your mind and be like, I'm gonna see one because he's doing the rut thing.
Gotcha,
he's not hiding right now. I feel like I know for sure I've rattled in 2. They were small bucks. I feel like I've rattled in one that was possibly a shooter, but as he's coming around this bull towards me, a coyote like pops up on the trail that he's coming right to me, and the buck like almost ran him over and then turned about face and ran, and the coyote chased him. So I feel like you can do some of that. Okay. I always have my little rattle pack with me, and I like to mess around with it, midday.
Yeah.
But I think the difference is the landscape. It's just so much bigger that they're hard to hunt like we hunt. We would probably hunt these whitetails different if they lived on wide open mountainsides. You know what I mean?
Fair point.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
All right. How about I'll throw this one out there. Favorite optic. Can be a rifle scope, can be a spotting scope, binocular, observation optic, whatever.
Man, if you're going to make me pick one, I'm going to probably go with my 8s.
Mm-hmm. The binos, 8x42s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I like to use my 8s up in like I have them with me for this trip. I don't like to sit and I don't like to go in the wood. I don't like to go anywhere without binoculars, Yeah. And I'm going to have them on my chest for this hunt. And 8s give me that wide field of view. But if I had to go and glass up an elk at 2,000 yards, very easily could pull that off too. So I think I'd say that my favorite because just the versatility.
Mm-hmm. It's a very Ryan Muckenhern-esque answer as well. And I know Mark is over there just thinking like, well, Janis, you know 10s would be better. Or even 12s. Maybe 15s.
No, that narrows my view too much.
Yeah. I'm with you on this one.
And I'll note since we just came off a coos deer, I like very much will have 8s on tripod sometimes and be looking for a coos.
Gasp.
You're like, we shouldn't even make that possible.
We'll just edit this part out.
Can't do that.
No. All right, Mark.
Okay. Bing, bang, boom. Oh, you like to bow hunt? Fixed blade or expandable?
Fixed.
There you have it. You asked this one, Mark. I like this one.
Oh, okay.
It's a good one.
Okay. So, I mean, when you've hunted for a long time, like I said, lots of cool moments with family, friends, dads, grandpas. Is there like a most sentimental hunting item that you take with you on every hunt? Like, do you still kind of have that one thing that it just kind of makes the trip? You don't got it?
I don't. I'm not.
He's practical.
I'm not very sentimental in that way. Like when everybody always asks you like, oh, your house is burning down, besides your kids and your dog, when are you going to get out of there? And usually I'm like, well, grab the hard drive with the pictures on it,
Yeah.
I want my pictures. I don't really have like any guns or knives or anything that if I lost them in a fire, I'd be like, oh, that's the end of the world. I'm just not a collector, I guess, so to speak.
That's exactly what I'd expect somebody who carries 8s around all the time to say.
Very
because they're not into, their practicality. Somebody who's getting, like you, Mark, who likes more magnification. You're doing it because you feel, kind of like you should. And
No. No. I love a 10x42 for virtually everything.
Oh, yeah.
But the 12x50 UHDs, in my opinion, are a superior optic for open landscape hunting.
Yeah, all right.
I would agree. I like to keep my house like clutter-free, I feel like sentimental stuff, it just, it's hard to keep the clutter out when you have that. I will say, I think the thing that I'm thinking right now, the thing that I have with me, that I have some sentimental attachment to me, and when I pull it out, I'm always happy to blow my nose into it, is I'm a handkerchief guy.
Okay.
I noticed it when I was a kid. My dad's like nose runs. Like it doesn't even have to be cold outside. But I go into the woods and my nose just starts to run, and I like to just, if you can blow it, it kind of runs a little bit less. And instead of just, my dad, you see, it's so mad at me for sitting next to him and going like every 3 seconds,
Okay.
He'd be like, dude, we're not going to see anything if you're just sitting there, doing that all morning. Anyways, Kevin Murphy, the world's greatest small game hunter,
oh, heck
you guys
yes.
may or may not know of. He gave me a Sportsman of Kentucky fluorescent orange handkerchief.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so I feel like, I don't know if he said that, but I now I tell everybody that I'm like an honorary member of the Sportsman of Kentucky Club because I have this handkerchief.
Might as well be the key to the city.
It's orange, so it's versatile, it's multi-purpose, and it's nice and soft. It's broken in, and when I bust it out, I'm like, hey, you don't have one of these, do you? That's right. I'm an honorary member.
Happy every time you blow your nose into it.
I don't know. You're just waving. I don't know if you know this, but
Kind of a big deal.
Jim?
Okay. All right. Now this one's kind of this is a classic one. If you had to pick, now we're getting into hypotheticals. If you had to pick one animal and one method of to hunt the rest of your life, what would it be?
Turkeys with a shotgun?
Oh,
Heck yeah. Nice choice.
I think that's a fantastic choice. I'd
be up between coos deer with a bow and turkeys with a shotgun.
It'd be a tough pick for me. And, talking from a guy that, I go out west as much as I can. Whitetails with the bow or turkeys with a shotgun.
Yeah. Elk with a bow, it's right there too.
Yeah.
It's a real, and really the reason I go with it for this question is because you got to think longevity in the rest of your life. Hunting those bulls in the mountains is going to get tougher.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
At age 65, I'm hoping I'm still doing it at 65, maybe even 70. But turkeys, man, you're going to hunt those hopefully until I'm like someone's rolling me out in a wheelchair out there.
Oh yeah, and you're still going.
Some people have said it around here. They're like the bird version of an elk.
Yes, I totally agree.
A lot of people, I feel like hardcore elk hunters, they get kind of PO'd.
Yeah, Remy Warren hates it.
They're not like
Remy Warren's constantly bringing it up that people say that, and he like really does not like it.
Does he not see the parallels though?
I don't know. It's impossible not to.
And I love one of my favorite people in the world. So, but I know there's a size differential, right? And probably like an effort differential. But man, I still think and for pure fun. We talk about it all the time. Pure fun for pure fun, man.
Yeah, like pure fun and just like gets your heart rate up, man. It's like that gobbler coming in when he's at 30 and you can't even see him yet, but you can hear him drumming and spitting and he's hammering, and there's a bull elk at 30 yards, bugling. It's like both those things, my heart gets pretty excited.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff. And they're easy to pack out.
Oh,
True.
Love it.
True.
Couple good meals, easy to pack out. Okay. Another hypothetical here, Jim.
Yep. Same vein, kind of.
We have two. I'm curious if this changes. You have one hunt left. Like you get one more. That's it. It can be anything. What is it? And is it the same as before or is it different?
Any hunt in the world.
Doesn't cost,
even if you've never done it before.
Yep.
I'd probably go do like just some great big mountain sheep hunt, backpacking.
Okay.
A great big adventure, do a couple airplane flights, then ride a horse for 20 miles and then take a raft for another 50 miles and go see some just like unbelievably cool mountain landscape with no other people and try to hunt down a ram.
That sounds cool.
I like it. I have a hard time choosing between something like that or like kind of like that thing that you just love. You know what I mean? Like that's like new and exciting and different, but then maybe that's where the sentimentality, something like that. Like you know what I mean?
We get what
like
you're saying, Mark.
Yeah,
that's some vocab right there.
Yeah, or lack thereof.
Spell that one in a spelling bee.
Find that in the dictionary. You won't. But like. Whitetail hunting with the bow. You're like, man, I get one more chance. Like, am I going to go do kind of like that one go-to thing that you just love because it's fun and it's cool? Or do you do like the wild, extravagant kind of like adventure?
Yeah, I think just because of what you just said, I'd go with, I want the adventure.
Cool. Mm-hmm. I like it.
Mark, I'm gonna bump us ahead a little bit to wild game cooking.
Fine.
All right.
I think that's great.
All right. Favorite wild game to eat, and then and maybe even so what's your favorite, and then also what's some wild game that's been surprisingly good to you where you're like, I didn't expect that I'd be all about that.
Probably favorite is still, if we're talking any wild game, is probably the wild turkey.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you get 2 in 1 because you get like your dark meat. It's like totally different. My favorite thing these days is like I don't even know what I'm going to do with it in the end, but I'll just cook it down, crock pot, Instapot, however you want to do it, Dutch oven, and you can dope up your braising, liquid if you want. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll literally just do, 3 quarts of chicken stock, throw the legs in there, and basically slow simmer them until, you can shake the meat off the bone and then pick it apart, pull out all the tendons, and then I'll just put that into the freezer, and when it comes out, I'll make like quick batches of turkey noodle soup with it.
Oh, so you cook it and then freeze it, and then you have it on hand.
Totally. I can make a turkey noodle soup in 10 minutes. Same thing. Quart of chicken stock, some egg noodles, bag of frozen peas and carrots, and whammo. Kids love it.
Heck yeah,
I like it.
Or just like a carnita. I'll do that too. I'll get some bear grease, which I've been cooking with a lot lately because my boys have been hooking me up, man.
Nice.
I put in solid half an inch of bear grease in the cast iron skillet, and then get that nice and hot, and throw in, nice even layer of that same carnita turkey meat and crisp it up. Delicious.
That sounds very good.
Yeah.
How about what do you do with the breast most commonly?
We actually just made it the other night. I told my kids, because I feel so bad because I've been leaving them so much, and I had to show them how much I loved them. I cooked them turkey schnitzel.
Oh, another good one.
They love it.
That sounds
yeah.
good.
It's basically to me, turkey schnitzel is like just souped up turkey nuggets.
Yeah.
Right? Like my turkey nuggets recipe, the only thing I'm you just kind of remove a couple steps, right? Turkey nuggets, I'm just kind of chunking it up real quick, bread it real quick, get it into the deep fryer. Schnitzel, you pound it out, take your time with the flour and the egg and then the breadcrumbs, shallow pan fry it, serve it with some lemon wedges. My kids love that.
That sounds
Two of my favorite turkey recipes that I've done are actually from the MeatEater website, and one is the turkey schnitzel, which is kind of like you said, it's like a fancy, glorified chicken strip or turkey strip.
Oh, dude, you'll impress anybody. Mother-in-law, you could have the president over, and I'd serve him up that. I might make a little hollandaise sauce if the prez came over and put that over the top.
Yeah.
Dope it up. But
that's
And then we made here actually one day the street tacos recipe with turkey legs. So we braised the turkey legs and then did the whole kind of carnita style street tacos with them, and one of my favorite things that I've ever had.
How about the wild game that surprised you, where you were like, I wasn't sure about this going into it, but it was pretty dang good?
I didn't grow up a duck hunter, and so when I started hanging out with Steve, I had my hands on or shot some more ducks. And I think that one I was kind of always like, just because that's what you hear, right? Ducks aren't good. It's the flying liver or whatever. But Steve's like, no, it's just like everything else. You just got to cook it right, and voila. And so, I'd say like a medium rare mallard, breast is like one of my faves now. And
that is a good one.
I was surprised by it.
Yeah.
I'm brought back to Boats and Bows when we shot that one lone duck and shared it between 4 of us.
That was a nice breakfast hors d'oeuvre.
It was absolutely incredible. But yeah, I just wish there was more. But that's a good one.
That is a good one. I tell you, for me, one of the most surprising things was actually on that Prince of Wales trip when Steve made, I think I might say this incorrectly, I think it was his hot buttered buck nuts, where we actually ate the testicles from one of the deer. And I remember thinking, man, I don't know. And I'd eaten, oyster, in Nebraska, people would order, Rocky Mountain oysters a lot, so I'd had stuff like that before. But, that was surprisingly, just really good. If you didn't tell anybody what it was,
it's really
it's
good.
just good.
No, it is. That one's more of just like a mental mind screw that you kind of got to just get over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get a weird feeling in my teeth. Thinking about that.
Just glad it's not you.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are we at, Jim?
Well, we're in a section here that says Latvian roots.
Yes.
Ooh.
So
I hope I don't disappoint you guys.
Well, your Latvian heritage seems to get brought up, a fair amount. And so question one, we got like a 3-parter here. So try and break this down. But have you ever hunted Latvia? What did you hunt, if you have? Or is there something that you would want to hunt there? Yeah,
this is the disappointing part. I have yet to even step foot on my, I guess you could call it, native soil.
Okay. Is that something like
it's in? Oh yeah, for sure. It's in the works. It's I just haven't gotten too serious about it. But let's just see if this season of MeatEater hunts goes well. But I can maybe talk my employer into funding a episode to be shot over there.
Maybe this will
Next
be.
year.
Maybe you can. They'll listen to this, and you can be like, "See, the people want to know." It can be like some sort of catalyst.
So here's the thing. I got to be honest with you. I was probably too busy reading car rags behind my textbook in high school geography class. Where is Latvia?
It is on the Baltic Sea, which that's not exactly like the greatest landmark either. But
yes, the
So
Baltic.
my next question.
it's northern Eastern Europe.
Okay.
So if you know where like Norway
Yes.
and Sweden come down, long countries from the
Yes.
north, right? And then to the east, you have the giant country of Russia. You heard of that one?
Yep. Yep.
Sandwiched between those two is the Baltic Sea, and then the 3 Baltic states, which is Estonia, Latvia in the middle, and Estonia on the north, Latvia, and then Lithuania on the south.
Okay. Got it. All right. That's a great description. I could totally picture
all
that.
those countries have always been very worn, torn, and sort of it's been problematic for them because of their geographical location. Latvia has the Bay of Riga, which has a river called the Daugava, which flows from interior Russia right into the Baltic, which then you can access the Atlantic, right? And so it's a small country. It's like literally the size of the state of Indiana. Less than 2 million people live there. So when any other country, almost in Europe, wants to be like, you know what, we'd like to have that port, it's pretty easy for them to come in and have it.
Yeah, it seems like a very desirable thing to have, and also like when you're not super big and you have other big places that maybe want to have.
That just sounds. I mean, being on the western edge of Russia in Eastern Europe just sounds like it, historically speaking, a pretty rough spot to be located in.
There's definitely been some rough things that have gone down there.
Yeah, but what would you hunt? Let's say if you were able to go there.
They surprisingly have wide variety of options.
That's
you can
cool.
hunt red stags there, like the big ones that are like elk size.
Okay.
Yeah. Watch any Hollywood movie that involves hunting, and you'll probably see a red stag.
Exactly. I don't know why. I guess there must be a lot of them on farms that can be filmed.
Must be
that. But they have moose. There's like the smallish ones that look like kind of like a Sika deer, if you remember that episode that we did. Mm-hmm. And I think over there they might call them like a roe deer,
red deer, or something. Yeah,
kind of have like a miniature elk rack on their heads, right? Usually it's like a 3x3. I think a giant one's like a 4x4, but they're not more than 14 inches tall or something like that. They hunt beavers over there, like actually hunt them, not trap them. They actually like hang out and wait for Mr. Beaver to come out.
Okay.
And then shoot them.
Lithuanian squirrel hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, not Lithuanian, Latvian squirrel
They
hunting.
don't have squirrels.
Wrong country.
Which is surprising. But what else? They have the capercaillie over there, that big giant grouse.
Oh, okay.
Not a lot of them, but I think there's some hunting opportunity.
That's cool.
They actually have enough lynx running around that you can actually hunt lynx over there. So anyways, I think I would, what do I say? Wild pigs is very, very popular, but they're actually, like the actual swine flu is actually hurting swine populations in Europe right now. And it's like a big thing on hunters' minds over there right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Where they're like, we're losing pig numbers and like, kind of like we're dealing with CWD, and we're like, man, although we're not losing numbers yet, but like we could be.
Yeah.
Like they're definitely very, very worried about it. I just really want to go over there just to see sort of the. I think that their hunting is a lot more, just sort of like there's a lot of traditions around it, and a lot of stuff that you sort of do ceremoniously around hunting that we don't do too much here. So I want to kind of go and experience that. And I think that it's been interesting the last, like, somehow no Latvian hunter had ever heard of me. Not that they should, but like a year ago, all of a sudden, some hunters in Latvia were like, they all found out about Janis that works over at MeatEater. And so I've gotten a lot of calls. I've done some podcasts and did like an interview for a magazine over there. So I've made a bunch of connections. It's like, it's time, right? Because I can go and like work all those connections and get some good hunts in. And
Heck
see,
yeah.
see how they do it all. So
No, that's super cool.
What would you cook up in Latvian style? If you were to make a recipe that was a wild game Latvian recipe.
Or is that something that you do currently?
I'm trying to think if I actually do anything that's very Latvian cuisine is pretty darn boring.
Darn.
I once had some Latvians from Latvia. I think they were over for my stepsister's wedding. I was living in Colorado. They stopped through because they were just doing a United States tour before they went back. And I remember getting like mild or whatever the least spicy guacamole is, because I was going to serve them. I served them something like elk carnitas or something like that, you know? I mean, this guacamole was like, I mean, a baby could eat it, you know what I mean? And they would not be like, this is spicy.
Yeah.
And those guys all had a little bit of that on there and just like red alarm, just like number 5 hot, like where's the milk?
Oh my gosh.
Just like, I mean, that's a difference in palates. And I mean, so their palate is just very plain and simple. I think they like a lot of just like fresh food. My dad was recently there and he can't stop talking about how good and fresh the food tasted. And how it didn't need a lot of seasonings, but it was just like the food itself had so much flavor. I'm trying to think what's like a dish that I sort of like is even influenced by some Latvian cooking that I've done.
I wonder if my mother-in-law is Latvian, because she has Caesar dressing and she says her mouth is on fire.
Could be.
Never know.
Some Caesars could have a lot of the anchovies and black pepper in there.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Could burn you up a little bit. So no, I do cook some Latvian things, but I don't know if I really like if my wild game cooking has really been influenced by it.
Okay.
Right on.
Right on.
That's fair.
Get back to you on that one.
I picture,
Can't wait.
and I don't know why I picture, but you're talking about like the freshness of food. I'm picturing like, and probably completely incorrect, but like getting like vegetables from like smaller markets and stuff
Totally.
like that.
And just bread that is just like out of this world for whatever reason. My dad was saying the same thing about beer too. Like he's not a beer drinker, hasn't had beer here in the States in 2 decades probably. Yet over there, he was like, it tasted so good.
Huh.
I like it. Maybe we need to go, Jim.
Yeah.
I'm in for the beer.
Cars and beer, the 2 things you love. Don't put them together.
There's actually there's a tavern. I think it was in a town called Jelgava, which is kind of south of Riga, the capital city, but somewhere in that zone. My dad went, but there's a tavern there with my last name on it. So
that's cool.
We could meet there. Take a picture in front of the Putelis Tavern.
That's
I
awesome.
like it. I like it.
Marco?
Next section, moving on. We got deep thoughts. We're going to bring the room down for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
More of a serious question, I guess. Mm-hmm. Do you see anything we should be working on in the hunting industry? If so, what is it, and how might we fix it? I feel like this is like a beauty pageant question.
Oh.
Just say world peace, Janis.
Yeah, exactly. We should just be more encompassing with all everybody that wants to be a hunter. Yeah, well, that's kind of true. Not that we're not, but I think we could welcome just more like a diverser group of people with more open arms. You know, as much as I think nobody really it's not that we're anti-diversity in hunting, but it just seems like most of the time when I'm in a hunting camps, like looking at it like in the mirror a lot of times, you know, kind of like how we are now, right?
Yep.
So, because we do need ranks. I think we all agree upon that, right? Mm-hmm. That's one way to do it, is to try to just like get more people that might not be, you know, feel real welcomed by us, you know. It's to try to
mm-hmm.
be more forthcoming with that and say, hey, yeah, man, like everybody can be a hunter, you know.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, a lot of that's like probably unintentional. So if anybody's out there listening that's like, oh man, yeah, I'm interested in doing that, but man, it doesn't seem like, you know, it's welcoming. Probably I would say not intentional. But it's just like
you should just come by the sight-in day at 1 Vortex Drive at Barneveld Avenue, which is coming up, correct?
We had to do it virtually this year.
Right.
But
COVID.
But hopefully next year.
It did happen.
It did happen. Yeah, it did happen virtually via Facebook Live. But hopefully next year, come by that. Yeah.
Yep.
Save the address. But yeah, to your point though, doing stuff like that.
Everybody's welcome.
Indeed. Now, Mark, your next question, you wrote this one in there, and I think it's a great one because MeatEater has broad appeal to many different people, large non-endemic audience. You with the vocab again. Now, what are some ways that we can make new hunters who otherwise wouldn't get involved feel welcome, and then also, perhaps most importantly, how can we keep them out of our spots?
Yes, that was my. It's just be careful what you wish for because I want all these things, but I don't want them in my spots. Jim,
it's a double-edged sword, man. We need to open. The answer to the second part is we need to get more private land opened up to more we need more public access to private, and that might keep them out of your spots.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of work that can be done because anytime you talk to somebody that actually puts the effort in, like MeatEater's new CEO, Dan Schoenberg, I was chatting with him the other day.
Okay.
And he was telling me how he was kind of bummed out leaving his home state of Minnesota because it had taken him a few years, but he had gotten really good at writing, letters requesting permission. And he was up to 10 properties.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about saddle hunting, about how important it can be to prep a tree. And he's like, yeah, I've got 30 some trees prepped to hunt out of. And now we're moving to Bozeman, which obviously he's totally stoked. He's totally stoked on. But I think it just shows that
later trim trees
that we can, we can put forth the effort to find places for people to hunt, keep them out of your spot, Mark.
I like it. Mm-hmm. I like it. I can see that's tough though, man. A lot of work put into that.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of work.
Maybe you can go back though. It's just you make that annual pilgrimage back.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to make it an annual thing. But the first part of the question was just how to get more.
Just what are some things that we can do to make new hunters who otherwise wouldn't get involved? Some of the things that you guys are doing, even.
I think keep it simple. It's so easy for us to forget about the basics and how we need to keep talking about the basics because you kind of feel almost stupid talking about the basics so much.
Yeah.
But that is what those new people need and want to hear and want to just get over those initial barriers. Because when we sit around talking about the super techie stuff, it's just like you earlier talking about the engine that's in the truck I just bought. I'm like, it sounds great and fancy, but I really don't know what that means. So I think that just keeping it basic and always going back to those basics and that I think makes it, welcoming to people,
Yeah.
And we can always, don't forget about the 101 stuff.
For sure. Nope. Dude, I think that's a great point. That is such a great point because it is a second language. When Jim's talking about cars, second language. And it's not my second language because I never know what you're saying. But hunting is the same way with terminology or slang or
or even just when you're showing somebody something, you're like, hey, here's how to do this. So a bunch of stuff was already done, but we're here now. We're going to show you how to do it. And it's like, oh, well, the stuff that already was done that got you to this point. That's where I always fall off. I know even when I was getting into cars or certain sports or whatever. It's anytime you watch something or you read something and it just always assumes that there's a base level information there, but it doesn't go into what that is. Then you're just, it's kind of there's a barrier out there somewhere and I got to figure out how to break that. And then maybe I can get onto the level of taking off and learning more and more. But it's somehow you got to find your base before you build on it.
Now I was reminded of that just the other day because we did we had a little introduction to 3-gun shooting. We spent a half day doing a little bit of that. And I'm not very familiar with semi-automatic pistols and the AR platform, And so as soon as when those things were in my hands, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is probably what most people feel like, even with a bolt-action rifle. And you see them handling it in this very ginger way. And, they don't just are very unfamiliar and not confident in the situation. And I was kind of feeling that way too until, when 3-gun, you get to shoot a lot real fast. And so that, it went away. But just basic firearms handling is that you got to spend time with the gun to feel comfortable with it,
that's definitely true.
Well, and you were talking about earlier, just even different types of movements with that firearm. It's just they are or can be dangerous, right? You know, and so like you want to be careful and you want to be thoughtful with them and always make sure that you're following, you know, the rules of firearm safety. But when you're doing new things with that, like you definitely have to think more about it. And I did exact same parallel, and I think I may have even brought that same thing up when we podcasted. Jim and I were we did some kind of like self-defense training, so it was like, you know, pistol, AR stuff, and, you know, drawing and getting on target and things like that. And it was like a good reminder for me because they're like, oh, yeah, just go hunting. Yeah, get that bolt-action rifle and then go out and read some sign and go do it. It's like, oh, yeah, actually, no. Like, there's more to it than that. And it's, you get, when you're so entrenched in it or when you've done something a lot, like you kind of forget what you learned along the way. Yeah. So, yeah, I like that one. Jim, take it away.
We'll try. All right. We'll kind of rattle through these last ones. We'll see how we can do. But, all right. Most positive trend. We'll ask this one. We'll end on a positive note within deep thoughts. Most positive trend you've seen in hunting over the last few years. Like, hoorah, fist pump. Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know if it's the most positive, but certainly one of the positive things I think that we've seen a lot is, and you know, I definitely give Steve a lot of credit to it, is just the how cool it's become to eat, you know, animals, and I think that's a great way for us as a community to gain more acceptance. Like I'm always talking about how like I don't want everybody to be a hunter and not everybody to come to my spot. I just want like everybody to be cool and accepting of hunting when they go to the voting booth, right? And I think that like with us sort of like I can see a picture that's from one of your recent catalogs there, and there's some barbecued quail, right? Yep. Like that right there, man, it really transcends any kind of boundaries and like, you know, sort of fake fences that people put around themselves when they're like, oh, I don't like hunting. Well, you're like, well, hey, check out this barbecued quail. And they're like, oh, I like hunting. that tastes good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. They may not ultimately engage, but they get it more. You know?
Yeah,
and
totally.
Like totally cool with it.
Yeah, man. So. Like Steve always says, venison diplomacy, you know? I mean, you just hope that, you know, whether you're giving it away or having someone over for dinner or whatever, or just the fact that you're talking about it, that hopefully later, like when they're talking about it with their friends, or like I said, when some ballot measure comes up and they're like, should we or should not be able to hunt bears? They're like, well, yeah, of course, because Mark gave me some bear sausage. It was great.
I like it.
Great point. So that goes along. I think a lot of what we've been talking about goes along with new hunters, which is our last topic on here. And the first one is just, you know, best piece of advice you would give to a new hunter. What would that be?
Patience.
Yeah, that one's tough.
It's tough. Yeah. You got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it, man. You just got to be patient out there.
Which is something that can get lost, or maybe not lost, but you don't see all of the patience that goes into MeatEater hunt that's on Netflix. You know, you're getting the...
No, because that's the boring part.
Right.
Totally. I always tell everybody, man, if we actually showed you, like, just ran a hunt, you know, from beginning to end and showed you those 1,000 minutes instead of just the 22 minutes, you would be bored to tears.
That would be slow TV.
Like, just, it'd be slow TV. Just to watch that is just, it's not entertaining. It's not, you know, engaging. And it's a different story when you're out there.
Right. When you're doing it, yeah.
And, you know, but some people, you know, maybe too many video games and then you don't get, you know, engaged by nature. But
yeah.
Yeah.
You should take all that footage though, and then just repurpose it. You could market it as a sleep aid. Make millions. People have trouble sleeping.
They already have the Golf Channel for that.
Yeah, there's some hunting podcasts out there too that will do that. If you're not like tuned in on that content, I was listening to a lot of them yesterday on our long drive out here, and my videographer that was driving with me, he's like, dude, I've never slept this good. And those boys are just putting me to sleep. I'm like, oh good.
Man.
That's awesome. I love it.
Mark, I know why you put this last question on here, so I'm going to let you ask it. Oh. And I'm not going to be happy about it.
Always a hot topic.
Okay.
The never-ending cartridge debate. What's your go-to rifle cartridge?
Can I say I don't have one?
Oh my god!
Can I say whatever I have in the moment and I'm shooting? Man, I used to have go-to cartridges, but I've just realized over the years, man, that and especially the technology and everything's gotten so good, and the bullets have gotten better. That obviously now we're shooting elk very confidently with 6.5s. That like a decade or two ago, people would be like, "What?
Right.
You're doing what? That's just gonna pencil a hole through them, or not expand, or there's not enough hydrostatic
might
shock.
as well use a slingshot.
Yeah, exactly. So, I like it that I've like broadened and tried a variety of calibers over the last decade, and because of my job, I've been afforded to have those opportunities. I mean, 6.5 300, it's great because I can reach out there and get them. But man, most of the time, I kill stuff at 100 to 200 yards, and a lot of times that cartridge is like, it's a lot at that range, and when you hit something, there's, you could, have a lot of meat damage. So you're always weighing. I was hunting for a trophy bull elk last week, and I was packing a 300 Weatherby.
Classic.
Because I wanted range, I wanted big knockdown power, and I didn't want a track job, and yeah.
Well, and that's, some of those things, you don't know, are you going to encounter an elk at 40 yards or 400 yards?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought you put this in here because you were preparing for Janis to say the 300 Wisdom.
No.
I packed that one around for a while, but I mean, if you still like really put the screws to me, I'd give you like a 30-06 answer because it's easy.
Is that what you were expecting?
That's actually what I was expecting,
Okay.
and it's not surprising because it just always circles back to the 30-06.
It's true.
You can keep.
It's just
around
like
the
your
30-06.
eights, man. Just kind of gets it done.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah. Very practical guy over here.
yeah. You can keep slicing the pie, but eventually you just go back to the 30-06. I'm pretty sure that's a saying.
Yeah.
But
That was like the last one on this piece of paper, but the true last one is, so you got an 06 Tundra.
Mm-hmm.
We need.
okay.
Mark even asked this question before we started, but I said we got to ask on the podcast. The 06 Tundra, I totally actually probably understand it at this point, like why you went with the 06 Toyota Tundra, because it's practical, right?
I think the biggest reason I got to say is because I had an 02 Toyota Tundra.
Okay.
That I drove from I bought it in 05 or 06, and actually I still have it, just haven't sold it yet. It's got 275,000 miles on it, and I tell everybody I would drive it to Alaska and back today, no questions asked. It doesn't look that great from the outside, but I totally trust the engine and the components and everything that's.
Does it have any rust on it?
There's a little bit, yeah. I think that those years they had a hard time keeping that clear coat on.
Yeah.
And so my hood and the top of the cab, is kind of worn out.
It happens.
There's a few rattles in it. I mean, that truck went through basically all my main guiding years.
Oh,
and
wow.
I bounced it around a lot in Arizona. And but like I said, even through all that, man, it's just like it's like hard to get rid of it. 'Cause I'm like, man, it's so just like, it still feels tight. Like when you drive it, the steering is so tight. So anyways, I had just the access cab, and my kids, 7 and 9 now, they're getting to be little string beans, big string beans, however you put that. And so my little access back seat was just not cutting it anymore. So I had to get four full doors. And I actually went and test drove, man, some newer trucks from Chevy and Ford and Toyota. And I was like, man, they're all kind of big. Yeah. I like just that kind of medium-sized, pickup truck. And I know it's known for its durability and its longevity. And so started poking around. And I bought it for less than $20,000. And a new truck these days is at least 40.
New trucks, I tell you, they have gone they have skyrocketed. It's just insane how they keep going up and up.
Yeah. So I have zero payment, and I have what I think is a very reliable pickup truck with room for the family. Still got a 6.5 foot bed.
Heck yeah.
I'm stoked.
Practical.
I think it's a good choice.
It is a good choice. Jim, you were talking about...
I pegged you at first for an F-150 kind of guy, but then when you said no, and then it hit me. He's got to be a Toyota guy. I guess Tacoma at first, but Tundra makes sense. Got to have that. But it's a good thing you didn't get a Chevy, though. So,
Jim, we can't say that.
Well, I will.
Oh, all right.
Well, actually, it's just a good tip anyway, because, unless you want to just leave trucks out in, the wilderness, just wherever it breaks down.
Oh, my God. I've had a couple.
Nobody wants to do that.
I've had a couple 150s over the years. Really enjoyed those.
Yeah.
That's what I was expecting. I was expecting a 150.
Well, it's easy that's always a solid guess because it is like America's best-selling vehicle, not just truck, but vehicle. So like when you guess F-150, a lot of people are going to say, yeah.
If I had to pick a brand new truck to get, though, I'm going Ram.
Really?
Yeah. Now, I can't say that Ram is a subsidiary of Chrysler, which is basically owned by Fiat now, which makes it an Italian car, in a weird way. And
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I can't say that
Are the leather seats better now?
Any of the brand? Oh, yes. I can't really say that any of the brands, Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, Dodge, and then Fiat, I can't say that they're exactly renowned for reliability. But, if you look at Consumer Reports, they usually score towards the bottom. But I think it's all relative because they're all, it's modern vehicles nowadays. So they're all pretty reliable. And then, as long as you get something that's not too tricksy or anything like that, you should be all right. But the Rams, if you step inside one of the newer Rams, ooh, my goodness, it's like stepping inside of a Ritz-Carlton. Yes, plush leather everywhere. Charge ports all over the place. You could have 28 cell phones in there, and they'd all be charged.
I don't know.
I don't know why anybody
cool.
needs that, but screens that are 12 and a half inches big. It's amazing.
My brother just bought a new GMC to pull his trailer, big diesel.
So I guess he's just. What's going to pull the GMC and the trailer?
Well, I don't know. It seemed like a very nice truck when I was in it, so I will say that. It's basically like getting inside a spaceship now when you get into a modern truck. But
it is.
It's like, there is no key. Interesting,
I got to say, we've discussed, so we have a Subaru Forester, and we use it for some of our hunting adventures. It's a bit small now, being that we have a camera guy that helps out and goes around with us.
Good for 2, small for 3
right.
with camera gear.
So we've been looking for something a little bit bigger, and the first gen Tundras have been on my sort of radar.
On the radar.
Yeah.
And with all the research I've done, I can tell you that you can find them. It's going to be hard to find one without rust, like within 1,000 miles of where we're sitting right now.
Mm-hmm.
But these days, there's so many car shipping services that if you find the right deal, you have it shipped, and then you don't have to pay California sales tax. Just have it shipped right over from Cali.
It's true.
Probably for $1,500.
It's true. Yeah. People used to think, I think car shipping not too long ago was how are you going to buy a car that's not within 100 miles of here? And you're like, well, just have it shipped. And they're like, you can do that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do you think all the cars got to the lots they're at? And nowadays, you find cars online. It's just, ship it to my house.
Mm-hmm.
It's practically Amazon Prime.
You can fly there and drive back, which sometimes might be a little bit more affordable, but you're going to burn a day of driving.
You could maybe even make a trip out of it if you go out to some of the western states, which are generally the better states for rust or lack of rust. Then you can have maybe a fun road trip back.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Just trout fish your way back or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That would be good.
I tell you, what accessory I'm going to get it put on it here pretty soon that I can't believe I've been an adult for roughly 20 years now, I'd say, and I haven't had it on a truck yet. The accessory. It's an exterior accessory.
Is it a winch?
No, not a winch.
Is it a topper?
No, I've had.
The little
toppers.
ball that goes on your antenna.
That's it. Mark the winner. Light bar.
Oh yes,
I'm going 20-inch light bar in the grill. I was in Clay Newcomb had one. He was out. We were bear hunting in the spring, and he turned that thing on, and I'm like,
it is.
Where have I been?
It is.
That I did not know that these things existed. And he's like, oh yeah, it was $50 on Amazon, and then my buddy helped me install it in an hour.
It is amazing these days. You can find LED light bars for hardly any money, and it is like turning on the sun.
Yes, turns dark into light.
They're a deer is physically impossible to jump into in your way. Because he's like the force field is coming off your grill it will ward him off. No, but seriously, they can't hide in the ditch anymore on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And if they get too close to the truck, they actually vaporize before they hit the truck. So
Yeah, exactly. It's not just the light; they're stunned. Speaking of the whitetail rut and deer in the ditch. Been seeing almost like a new deer every day on my way to work lately.
We saw quite a few on the drive today. Yeah.
But I guess it's
a
sad, but a telltale sign that things are moving around.
Indeed.
So, which is good.
I commend you on your truck choice. Also, the accessory choice too. That's going to be cool.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Janis,
yes.
Awesome having you here. Just so stoked that you're able to come out, spend some time with us. This was super fun. Thank you. It's
I'm honored. I feel like such a VIP guest, man. I even saw a picture of me on a television screen.
That's actually not even
there
for
was
today.
10 screens with Jimmy's face doing some videos, and then there was one of me. I was like, cool, I'm in.
We do that every day.
So it's actually it's your face is on the screen every day.
So today is special, yes, but just so you know, that's how we think of you.
Well, I'm honored to you guys have me here, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks to everybody out there listening as usual. Hit us up in the comments with and on Instagram with whatever. Usually there's some like, oh yeah, tell us about your gun or your hunt or whatever. But I don't know, just comment, just say hey, and we'll pass it along to Janis. But otherwise we'll catch everybody on the next one. Thanks. Bye. All right, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Vortex Nation podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hit that subscribe button so you can always stay up to date on the latest happenings over here at the Vortex Nation podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at Vortex Nation Podcast. Again, everybody, thanks, and happy hunting and shooting. We appreciate it. Have a good one.